Oh, yes. What's happening, everybody? It's Monday night. It's the MMA Engine YouTube channel, and we are here to break down the co-main event of this Saturday's UFC card, which is going to be Ryan Superman Spann squaring off against Ion the Hulk Cutelaba. An absolute banger in this main event. A fight that right now has a fight doesn't go to decision priced up at minus 400 right now. So this is a fight that the bookies are fully expecting to be incredibly violent and finish inside the distance at least 80% of the time, according to the implied probability of the line. So it's going to be a real fun one to break down. Can't wait to do it with you guys. I know that there are some of you already hanging out here in the chat with me. We got my guy Mushroom saying, Uncle Weezy, oi, let's keep ass shaving those bookies. Oi, what's happening, Mushroom? It's good to see you, man. And Jeremiah Nicole is saying, in need of some more Weezy wisdom. How's the night going? It's going pretty good, man. Just had some dinner. About to break this fight down for you guys for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And then going to finish up my research for Just the Tip tomorrow night, which is going to be on my channel, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're going to break down all 11 fights on the UFC Vegas 54 card from a stats and tape study perspective. Finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week like we always do. And it's going to be a banger of a card. I mean, there's some really good women's fights on this card, a really good 205-pound main event, and a really good 205-pound co-main here. So it's going to be a good one. Can't wait to break down the entire card with you guys because I don't have a lot of bets yet, but I think it's going to be a good card for betting. I think that there are going to be some spots that are going to stick out, and I am digging into all these fights right now to try to find out what does stick out. I've got a couple of bets already, but I will share those with you tomorrow night. And then we got my guy DFS by the numbers saying, oi, what's up, Brady? Fresh back from his wedding. He is a married man. So every video that you see him doing from now on, remember, he's no longer a single man. He's a married man, you know, so he's probably going to be a little bit more conservative in his views. He's probably going to be even like he probably will even swear less, even though he doesn't swear much to begin with anyway. So anyway, congratulations to my guy Brady. A happy and healthy lifetime together with your new wife. I wish you nothing but the best, man. Thanks for hanging out, brother. Good to see you in here. And if you haven't seen yet, the link to Stat Diggers is in the description of this video. That Brady and I broke down this entire card last night on Pub Sports Radio. Go check that out. Also, the stats that we'll be looking at today, that can be downloaded for free in the description of this video. And we also did a main event deep dive on the MMA Engine channel earlier today, which can also be checked out in the description of this video. We got a link to that as well. My guy Gutierrez Silva saying, oi, the champion has a name. That is right. And her name is Carla the Cookie Monster Esparza with an absolute pillar to post ass shaving of Rose Namajunas, the most one-sided performance that we have ever seen in a championship bout. Long live the champion, Carla the Cookie Monster Esparza. And we're all champions for having made it through the 25 minutes of that without ripping our own eyes out of our skull. God, I can't believe that happened. What a shame. And then Trace Coma's saying, "Yer, what up, G?" We got Six Side Worldwide saying, oi, oi, everyone. We got Mr. D saying, what's happening, Uncle Weezy? Doing good over here, Mr. D. It's good to see you hanging out in here with us. Uncertainty saying, Cerrone pulled out, made me lost money on DK. I need Uncle Weezy to help me win some money back. Yeah, dude, dude, it's funny how highly owned that fight was. I just had one lineup that I had for DraftKings, and it actually placed in 2 out of the 3 tournaments that I was in because so many people had either Lozon or Cerrone. So I still wound up placing, but God, I hate it when that happens, man. That's 2 weeks in a row now, or at least 2 out of the last 3, where we've had somebody pull out after the fights have already started, which is just a nightmare. It happened with Romanov 3 weeks ago. We got MMA Code saying, oi! And we got Lou Betcha saying, Weezy is just like Steve Harvey telling us we got a good one. That's right, man. You got that right. And we got Mushroom saying, what's up to Lou Betcha? We got Tyre Pierce saying Carla Esparza and Rose legitimately might have cured insomnia. Yeah, man, that was really rough to watch, man. But hopefully this balls deep breakdown that we do tonight here on the MMA Engine channel will be way more watchable than Esparza Namajunas 2, which was absolutely horrible. So let's talk about a fight which, if it wound up being that horrible, might be the most surprising MMA event to happen this year. But this one is an absolute banger. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, see if you my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to roll here. And I think I also saw that my guy Dan Goldstein is in the chat. So let me see if I can get his comment up here, and let's see if I can get my co-host up here. There we go. Come on. Do we got it? Is Smooth Jimmy up there? Yeah. There we go. And then let's see here. We got Mushroom saying there will be more strike and blind bowling than in the Rose Esparza fight. And Dan Goldstein saying, what up, everyone? Hiding out from the orderlies because I considered betting Johnston. I didn't. I'm just saying, don't bet Michael Johnson and don't bet Alan Patrick. That fight is... I wouldn't bet it with your money, Dan. I wouldn't bet it with anybody else's money. There's no point, man. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. But it's good to have you hanging out in here. And we got my guy Rick Sanchez, the smartest man in the world, saying, oi. And that's how you know you're in an Uncle Weezy MMA YouTube video here. We got the smartest physicist in the world, Rick Sanchez there, the inventor of the vat of acid that you could hide in order to get away from your problems. This is great stuff, you guys. And Smooth Jimmy's ready to go. I'm ready to go. So let's bring up these stats here. And we've got Ion Cutelaba squaring off against Ryan Spann. It's going to be Cutelaba, who's 2 years younger here. We've got Ryan Superman Spann is 6'5". He's going to be 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Spann, the orthodox fighter. Cutelaba, the southpaw. It's Fortis MMA for Ryan Spann. And it's something Moldova and Timoshkov Sparta something. Anyway, straight out of Moldova is Cutelaba, while Ryan Spann fighting out of the United States. So we see here a slight experience advantage for Ryan Spann. 26 professional fights to 24 for Cutelaba. About 25 more minutes in the pro cage for Ryan Spann. And Cutelaba has been doing this about a year longer. So about 2.5 fights a year for Cutelaba and almost 3 fights a year for Ryan Spann. So, Spann, both of these guys have been pretty active, but Spann even more active in a shorter period of time here. It's Cutelaba with the UFC experience edge. We're going to notice that Cutelaba has 2 more fights and actually 45 more minutes in the cage, which is a lot for 2 more fights. But we see here that the average fight time for Ion in the UFC is 8.39 minutes, while for Ryan Spann, 5.28 minutes. So when you see that fight doesn't go to decision number there on the bottom of the screen, sitting there at minus 400, now you know why. Ryan Spann's fights aren't even going above 1.5 on the average. So very short average fight time here. And look, even on the careers here for both of these guys, 5.31 minutes for Cutelaba, 5.75 for Spann. So Cutelaba was a finisher back in the day too, and getting it done very quickly. And if we look at the finish stats we're going to see that kind of shake out here. We've got an 88% finish rate for Ion Cutelaba and 16 wins. So that's 14 of his 16 wins coming inside the distance. That will be 2 by submission and 12 by knockout. And Ryan Spann has an 84% finish rate in 19 professional wins. So that is 16 of 19 wins coming inside the distance. I believe that would be 11 and 5. Yeah, 11 submissions and 5 knockouts. So Ryan Spann actually has a lot more submissions than he does knockouts. And if we see how these guys are losing fights, Ryan Spann has been finished in 72% of his pro losses. So 5 of 7 losses coming inside the distance. That would be 3 by knockout and 2 by submission. And Ryan Spann has been finishing all 3 of his UFC losses. And if we look at Cutelaba here, he's been finished in 4 of his 5 UFC losses and in 4 of his 6 pro losses. So if we just look at the UFC finish rates for both guys here, we've got 3 and 4. So 7 of 11 wins coming inside the distance. And in their losses, there are 7 of 8 losses inside the distance. So even though we see a really big number for the fight doesn't go to decision here, there's a really good chance that not only does this finish inside the distance, but it probably finishes under 1.5, just because of the fighting style of both of these guys. Let's see. If we go to the striking stats here, we have got Ryan Spann absorbing a little bit more in the striking than he's actually landing. And it's not that is not the case for Cutelaba here, as he lands 4.91 significant strikes a minute, and that's over a big sample size. And he's absorbing 3.43, so about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute Cutelaba is landing than he's absorbing. While for Spann, he's absorbing about 0.11 more significant strikes per minute than he lands. It's Spann who's a little more accurate and a lot more powerful. You guys, he has landed 5 knockdowns in only 9 UFC fights. We see here a 3% knockdown for total significant strikes landed. So that means we take 1.6 times 3 and we get 5. And it's basically 5 knockdowns in 9 fights. He's averaging 1.58 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And we see Cutelaba here. He has 2 knockdowns in 11 fights. So it's definitely going to be Spann with the power advantage here. And Spann has also been knocked down a lot, as he's been knocked down 3 times in 9 fights. He's getting knocked down on 1.8% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing. And he's showing a sub 50% striking defense, but he doesn't have to really worry about that so much, because he's not alone there as our guy Ion Cutelaba, sub 48% striking defense. Neither one of these guys knows how to do anything but block punches with their face. So we've got 2 very powerful fighters. We've got 2 very aggressive fighters. And both of these powerful, aggressive fighters have a tendency to block punches with their face and get knocked down. So once again, we are predicting violence. If we go to the grappling stats here, some interesting stuff. As I've watched Spann on the regional scene and in the UFC, he does go for takedowns a lot, but the numbers really aren't fleshing it out in his 9 UFC fights. 13 takedown attempts in 9 UFC fights, but we have to keep in mind that that's in only 47.5 minutes of cage time here. So he's actually, attempting quite a bit. One every, 3.5 minutes is Ryan Spann attempting a takedown. And his opponents are attempting just a little bit more than he is. And we see a really nice efficiency number here, as he's got 5 takedowns and his opponents have gotten 6 on him. And his opponents have tried 2 more takedowns than Ryan has, yet Ryan is out-controlling his opponents 26.3% to 18%. So Ryan Spann, very efficient on the ground. That's probably more of a function of his size and strength than it is of his wrestling technique. He is just an absolutely gigantic human being. I have no clue how he makes 205, but he does. And because he's so big, he doesn't need to be perfect with his technique. He can kind of just muscle you down. He's not particularly great at keeping you down, but he's very active once he does get the fight to the ground, trying to finish the fight here. And we can see that as he's getting 1.58 takedowns per 15 minutes. But for every takedown that he gets, and that's 5 of them, he's attempted 5 submissions as well when he's on the ground. So this is a guy who, when he gets you down, he's trying to finish the fight there. And we see that he's giving up just under 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, and his opponents are trying about 2/3 of a submission attempt per 15 minutes on him. And on those 6 takedowns, he has yielded about 9 minutes of control time, so about 1.5 minutes of control time per takedown that he yields, and he is getting about 2.5 minutes of control time for every takedown that he gets. So, like I said, Ryan Spann is doing very well on the ground here. Now, Cutelaba, on the other hand, while he's not very efficient, he is committing to the wrestling a lot, as we see that he's attempting 4 takedowns per fight. He's getting those takedowns at a 60% clip, and he's averaging 4.39 takedowns for 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponents 22.5% to 13.8%. So on the surface, that looks pretty good. But let's keep in mind here that for every one takedown Ian Cutelaba is getting, I'm sorry, that his opponents are getting on Cutelaba. Cutelaba is getting about 4.5 takedowns. So he's out takedowning his opponents 27-6, which is about a 4.5 to 1 ratio. So he's only out controlling his opponents at not even a 2 to 1 ratio. So even though he gets more takedowns than his opponents, when he yields takedowns, he gives up a lot more control time than when he gets takedowns, the amount of control time that he's managing to keep his opponents in check. So he's not nearly as efficient in the grappling exchanges as Ryan Spann is here. So I don't like Spann's 60% takedown defense, but the get-up game is pretty good. He's such a big, strong guy that he's very hard to hold down. And if he wants to pull that, I'm just going to stand up thing, it's very difficult to do anything about it unless you have perfect technique and you've got his back flat on the mat. If he's up on a hip or has got his back on the cage, good luck holding this dude down. He's just too big and strong. But Cutelaba is very efficient in terms of when he shoots his takedowns, he tends to be getting them. And making a guy like Spann, who's very big and who's very used to being out of there quickly, get taken down and get back up to his feet. I think you'll see Cutelaba last a little bit longer with his conditioning than Spann will with his. Cutelaba showing about 80% takedown defense. And on the 6 takedowns that he has yielded, he's probably given up about 12 minutes of control time. So almost 2 minutes per takedown yielded, but he's stopping takedowns at almost an 80% rate. So that's very good. So he's yielding about 1 less takedown per 15 minutes than Spann is. So, Cutelaba will probably be more likely to get the takedowns here. But if Spann gets takedowns, he'll probably be more likely to win the round with control time than Cutelaba will. But these grappling numbers make me excited about Spann's ability to be able to potentially win minutes on the ground with his size and strength and his commitment to the wrestling, as he does like to wrestle quite a bit. He will go to it. He'll try to make his opponents wear his weight and be the one initiating the wrestling so that, he can be the one resting on top while his opponent's working to get up. So, in the striking game here, I think both guys are very dangerous, but it's Spann who's landing these big shots that are changing fights mostly. Cutelaba, though, has been very good at dominating wrestling exchanges early in fights and getting takedowns, chaining takedown attempts together, and then, using that to drain his opponents. But it's a very draining style to fight. So he winds up in a lot of wars as a result of that, because he's not so great at keeping his opponents down. When they get back up, they're throwing haymakers, and we see a lot of his fights, a lot of Spann's fights ending early, ending under 1.5. As a matter of fact, I believe it's more than half of their fights are ending in under 1.5 rounds. So to have both of these guys with their very aggressive, very front-loaded styles is another reason that I'm really looking for violence in this particular fight. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. And we got my guy Dan Goldstein saying Lou Beccia, the Pamela Anderson tits of MMA voices. Yeah, man, he's got that great voice. I don't know if Lou is a smoker of Benson and Hedges 100s, which are a very smooth cigarette, which is why I would think that a man of his class and demeanor would be maybe smoking something of higher class, like a society, would frown down. Maybe some Dunhills. I don't know, but he's got that rich voice that sounds like it's been enjoying the smooth taste of a Laramie cigarette for many years. And it is, those dulcet tones are music to my ear. We got Local Man Shakes Fist. I love that name, saying stats. I love it, man. Thanks for hanging out, dude. And we got Chris Kalanzis in the room saying Uncle Weezy spitting facts and numbers. Good to have my guy Chris in the room here. We got Ron Sizzle 402 saying Ryan Spann wins. We got Dan Goldstein saying this fight could conceivably go longer if Spann uses his size to smother Ion for dear life. Yeah, and he does that sometimes. But Cutelaba does have a very good wrestling pedigree and a very good sambo pedigree that he was doing before he got into MMA. So he is a guy who can definitely handle himself very well in the wrestling exchanges with some of the best in the division for sure. Jeremiah Nicola saying, I'd like to see the doesn't reach round 3 prop. So would I. I think that's a great bet, especially if you can get it at better than minus like 160 or something like that. And then Dan Goldstein saying, I've seen enough fights that should go the distance, that if I get 4-1 on fight goes, I'll have a small poke. Yeah, that's the thing you got to look at, you guys, because we do know now that I'm doing this show called Probability on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, we know what these divisional finish rates are. And when somebody's giving you plus 400, that means that they're telling you that there's a 20% chance that this fight finishes goes to decision. But we know that in most divisions, fights are going to decision about 50% of the time, if not more than that. Like women's strawweight fights are going to decision 69% of the time, you guys. Women's flyweights 59% of the time. Even heavyweight fights are going the distance 37% of the time. So when they're giving you 20% as an implied probability, they're telling you, that this fight pretty much has to finish inside the distance because it's hard for fights to finish inside the distance 9 out of 10 times. There has to be a pretty crazy style brought each and every time, and that's just not how every fight goes. Every once in a while, people change their approach in order to lengthen their careers, and they just fight a more conservative game plan that fits the particular opponent they're going to be in the cage with, and it's hard to know sometimes because of bad coaching or just because of unpredictable fighters when they're going to do that. But that's a good point, Dan. It's about value sometimes. And when you're getting plus 400, it's not like you have to bet a full unit on it. You could throw an eighth of a unit on it to win a half. You could throw a quarter unit on it to win one. And what you're saying is okay, over the long run, if I bet this 20 times, as long as I hit them 5 times, as long as I'm right 1 out of 4 times, I'm making my money back. And chances are you can do that. Just on the variance over the long term, we know that a certain percentage of fights are going the distance. So it's a great point, and that's what we have to look at. We have to determine value. Local man shakes fist saying submission line on Spann is plus 1,200 on Bet Online. Seems very reasonable given what you said about him having more finishes by sub than KO. And that's really what he does, local man shakes fist. He gets you up against the cage, and then he works for those front chokes. So whether you're trying to wrestle him or whether he is pushing you back up against the cage, he's always looking to get his left or his right arm underneath your throat. And if he does that, he's just so big and strong that he can get a squeeze on you that most people can't, because he's got freakishly long arms and because it looks like he can bench press a truck. So, he gets dudes' heads caught in these front chokes and it's pretty much over. So, Spann has got 58% of his wins, so that's 2 times 6 is 12. So that's 11 wins by submission career. And you're talking about a guy who's finishing almost 80% of his fights inside the distance. So at 12-1, yeah, that's a really good line. I don't mind that at all. Jay says Spann decision. Well, we can see that in 19 professional wins, Ryan Spann has won by decision 3 times. So he's not winning a lot of decisions. But for Ion Cutelaba, it's really only 2 decision wins. So, when we go to the prop template here and we look at the numbers on the prop template, we can go over to the right side here and see that 4 out of 6 of the wins for Cutelaba are inside the distance. 3 of 5 for Spann inside the distance. That's 7 of 11. And we've got 7 of their 8 combined losses have been inside the distance. So 14 of 20. That's a 70% combined probability that Spann and Cutelaba's combined UFC fights win and lose, finish inside the distance. So it's 70%. You're looking at maybe a 30% chance that this fight goes to decision. I mean, I don't know, man. These are both killer be killed fighters whose fights are finishing inside the distance 78% of the time here for Spann and 64% of the time for Cutelaba, and that's because Cutelaba has a draw. And I mean, some of these draws are crazy fights that, you know, probably should, even the fights that have went to decision for Cutelaba probably shouldn't have. The Jacoby fight was an absolute war. The Devin Clark fight, he kicked the living shit out of Devin Clark. And it was Keith Peterson in the cage. So he wasn't going to stop it. So I wouldn't bet Spann decision. He doesn't win decisions, and neither one of these guys is going the distance in this particular fight. This is going to be like a train crash. So I mean, Spann by decision has got to be like almost plus 1,000. What is it? Spann by decision plus 500 on Bet Online right now, plus 560 on 5 dimes. Nah, man, that's not juicy enough for me, dude. Not even close. I wouldn't bet that person. It's just me, Jay. I wouldn't bet that. I don't think this fight is going to decision. Rick Sanchez saying Spann live for a guillotine. Yes, always live for that guillotine. Because Ion is a wrestler, he might wind up putting his head in there. And, you know, he just has a way of when he does back his opponents up to the cage, because he's 4 inches taller, you know, when you duck to get out from under Spann's shots that he's throwing at you, he will kind of just snatch up your neck. He looks for that guillotine, and my God, is he strong. Zach Singleton saying, "Oi, Weezy." What's up, Zach? Good to see you in here, man. My guy, the Cuban Assassin, saying, "Weezy, Wheeze, get cheddar." I'm glad Keith Peterson is working a lot. Those Henry Rollins tats are not cheap, and you could tell the work is absolutely A+. So it's not like he's going to some prison tattoo guy to get those things done for $50 a shot. It's fine artwork, and we wouldn't expect anything less from the dulcet tones of Keith Peterson's throat. My guy, Cuban Assassin, good to see you in here. My guy, Jarno Portilla, all the way from Finland, also in here. Weezy, what's up? I made 5 units last weekend. I love hearing this. I love hearing that we're stacking cash tickets like flapjacks, Jarno. It's great stuff, man. I'm up 5 units over the last two cards. So I was up like 3 units 2 cards ago, up 2 units on the last one. Just love stacking these winning events. Just keep them coming. Just keep them coming. Love to hear this. Dan Goldstein saying, "Weezy, we need to add something for the probability prop template for fighters who are Moldovan." Yeah, there's something else, dude. Moldova. We got Ion Cutelaba. We got Alexander Romanov. We have Nosferatu himself, Sergey Spivak. In the words of Santino DeFranco, who does a great show on YouTube with Brandon Olivas, he described Sergey Spivak as translucently pale and said he looked like Nosferatu and that he was one of the creepiest looking human beings alive. And the guy's face haunts my nightmares. Moldova. There's just something different going on in Moldova, man. And the dudes that are fighting out of Moldova are absolute killers. So you might be right about that. I might have to have a special area to suggest whether somebody's Moldovan or not. And Peterson does not know when to stop a fight or stop drinking before and during fights. I love it, man. Has Ion been subbed a lot? So Ion Cutelaba has been submitted in one of his losses, but never in the UFC. So one loss before his UFC days, he was submitted, but not in the UFC, Jay. And then we got my guy Tristan Shurow saying, "Yeah, Weezy, what's up, Tristan? Good to see you in here hanging out, man." So let's get to these strength of schedule stats that we have here. And we're going to see Ion Cutelaba with the better ratio here of 1.71 compared to 1.09 for Ryan Spann. Both of these guys are fighting pretty experienced competition, though. So the average record of a Spann opponent, 5.44 wins and 5 losses. The average record of a Cutelaba opponent, 5.91 wins and 3.45 losses. So overall, Cutelaba is fighting the better brand of competition. In terms of the wins, they're both beating 500 fighters. It's just that Spann is beating the little more experienced fighter. So I'll say that Spann's wins are just a little bit better here. And then we've got for the losses, both of these guys are losing to very experienced competition. But you look at the average record of the guy that beats Cutelaba, 8.2 wins, 3.6 losses, while Spann is losing to almost the same type of competition that he's beating, which is just over 500 records, guys with a 6-5 average record. So we look at the last 5 here. A win by submission over another one of those guillotines over Devin Clark. A win by split decision over Sam Alvey. A loss by knockout to Johnny Walker in what was an absolute war. A win by knockout over Misha Serkinov, I believe in the 3rd round. Or was that early? I'm forgetting about that one. And then the loss by submission to Anthony Smith. That one was an absolute war while it lasted as well. But as you can see here, I believe this one finished in the 2nd. This one went to decision. 1st round, I believe the Serkinov fight was round 1, and then Smitty round 1. And then we see Cutelaba. He wins by knockout versus Roundtree. Has those 2 weird fights with Magomed Ankalaev. A draw, split decision with Dustin Jacoby, where he shaved his ass in the 1st round, and then basically emptied the gas tank trying to finish him. And Jacoby, who's really well conditioned, trains at altitude, was able to win the last 2 rounds and get a draw there. And then Devin Clark, the win by unanimous decision, which I cannot believe that fight wasn't stopped. But once again, Keith Peterson doing what Keith Peterson does. If we look at the advanced stats here, I've got some stuff highlighted here. So this is Ryan Spann, and then we've got Cutelaba here. So I'm highlighting the wins for Cutelaba. And in these wins, we see a couple of decision wins here against Clark, against Jonathan Wilson, and then we got some stops against Enrique Da Silva, Gadza Murad Antigulov, and Khalil Roundtree. So 1-3 Wilson, 2-5 Enrique Da Silva, 2-4 Antigulov, and then good wins over Roundtree and Devin Clark, and a really close draw with Dustin Jacoby. And let's see, in these fights, we see an 8 of 12 takedowns, 4 of 5. He's got a couple of wins here without getting a takedown at all. And so, he's not really takedown dependent. He's had a fight he's lost where he's gotten 6 takedowns. He's had a draw fight where he got 9. He's had a couple of wins where he's gotten 8 and 4 takedowns, but then he's also won 3 fights where he didn't get a takedown at all and barely got any control time. So, he can win in more ways than one. He can knock you out. He can get knockdowns. And, he can win wrestling matches too. And one thing I'm noticing here is that even in these fights that he's losing, he's not getting taken down much. 0 of 7 here on a loss. 0 of 2, 1 of 3 in a loss. So there's really not much of a pattern to how Ion Cutelaba is winning or losing fights. But we do see that he lost to Serkinov here in round number 3 by submission. He lost to Jared Cannonier in an absolute war. He lost to Glover Teixeira, the current champ, and Magomed Ankalaev, probably a future champ at some point here. So he's losing to the best competition that the division has to offer. While Spann, here in his losses, let's see what happens in the losses. All 3 losses in the very first round, you guys. All 3 losses coming in under 230 seconds. So, within the first 4 minutes. And let's see if he's getting any takedowns in these fights. 0 of 1, 2 of 2, and 0 and 0 of 0. So he's 2 of 3 in takedowns in fights that he loses. He gets knocked down twice in this one. He gets knocked down once here. And in this fight, he absorbs 26 of the 30 strike attempts thrown at him. So that was not good. But, once again, not much in the way of information. But he does have 2 decision wins, you guys. A decision win over Luis Enrique, where a lot of the fight takes place in control time positions. And a win by split decision over Sam Alvey, where we get about, 210 seconds of control time. So not a lot. But most of his fights, not big swaths of them taking place in control time positions, with the exception of the Anthony Smith fight here, which was probably more than half control time, but it was only 227 seconds. And the same thing here for Johnny Walker. So, yeah, there's not much in the way of patterns here. He loses to Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker, Carl Roberson. He beats Sorty, Luis Enrique, an ancient Rogerio Nogueira, Devin Clark, who Cutelaba beat, Sam Alvey, and then the 2021 version of Misha Serkinov knocks him out in 71 seconds. So, oh man, this looks like, obviously I'm not telling you guys anything impressive here when I say that I think that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. I think you could parlay it, but let's look at this under 1.5, sitting here at minus 135, right? If we look at Spann here, we've got only 2 fights which have went over, so 450 seconds is over 1.5. So we've got 1 900 and 2 900s here in 9 fights. So 7 of 9 go under 1.5 for Spann. And for Cutelaba, this is not Cutelaba. This is. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of his 11. So of 20 fights, you guys, 12 of them combined have went under 1.5. So that's 60%. So that would be a line of minus 150. We're getting minus 135. So there's a little bit of value on that. So if you can find a fight doesn't start round 3 at around minus 150, minus 160, that's pretty good. Under 1.5 and minus 135, in my opinion, is actually bettable here because these guys are both so powerful. They're both such good finishers. It's easy to see this fight finishing inside the distance because Spann is the kind of guy who really only needs to hit you once in order to have you confused and on Dream Street fast enough that the ref's going to step in. And it's the same thing with Cutelaba. He's vicious when he has you hurt. And when he's got you in a bad position on the ground or up against the fence, his ground and pound is savage. And he gets, he can work for submissions too. It's not really his game, but he's looking to pound your head through the canvas. And if you don't believe me, ask Devin Clark. Dude rearranged his teeth for the rest of his life. So I like the under 1.5 here. Let's see what's going on. Glover subbed Ion? No, I think Glover knocked him out. Oh, Glover did sub him. Fuck. Wait, didn't I have that in my notes, though? No, it was 2 subs. So Kudalaba's been subbed a couple of times here. What did my stats have him at? Oh, yeah, Kudalaba's been subbed twice. He's been knocked out twice. Yeah, absolutely. He hasn't gotten any subs. And we know that Spann has gotten 2 wins by submission, 2 by knockout in the UFC. And he's been knocked out twice and subbed once in the UFC. So both of these guys have been finished both ways, and they've both gotten finishes by submission and knockout as pros as well. Spann more likely to sub you, Cutelaba more likely to knock you out. Yes, Glover did sub Ion. And Dan Goldstein saying, don't be fooled by less than impressive facial hair of a Moldova, as they are just as hard and Slavic as the most bearded Dagestani. There's no question about that. Dan Goldstein saying, do we consider Spann a candidate for being knocked down by a lukewarm shower? I don't think so, man. I don't think he's quite there. If you look at the people who have knocked down Spann, let's get those numbers here. So Cutelaba. So let's find the knockdowns that he has absorbed. It was this fight and the very first fight. So he's been knocked down by Roberson and Anthony Smith. And, even Johnny Walker, too, who hits extremely hard. He's been in there with some hard hitters. Sam Alvey's got some knockdowns. Johnny Walker certainly got some knockdowns. Serkinov's got some power. Yeah. I don't think I'd put him in that category because that's like the Jordan Wright category. That's pretty much saved for the Jason Witts, the Malcolm Gordons, the Jordan Wrights, the guys who can be knocked out by a hot shower. Mushroom saying Spann is a good hammer, bad nail. Very true. Cutelaba KO. I think that's a pretty good look. Local man shakes fist saying, if you think these early finish stats are crazy, wait till you do a deep dive on Camacho Torres. Oh, I know, man. Camacho Torres. Let's just take a quick look to have a little bit of fun with that. Camacho and Torres have combined finished 39 of their 45 combined pro fights inside the distance. That's 86.7%. Manuel Torres, 13 of 14. That's 93%. And Frank Camacho, 26 of 31. That's 84%. So just absolute violence between Camacho and Torres. And the betting lines are, of course, steamed to the under. Minus 265 for fight doesn't go to decision. I think he's already been moved to minus 300 or so. So, yeah, the bookies are all over it for that one. Yeah, definitely some serious finish stats between those guys. Dan Goldstein giving him a thumbs up. And local man saying Torres finished almost all of them in the first round, too. Yeah, he's a killer-be-killed fighter. So that's a great parlay piece. That particular fight doesn't go to decision. I love it. And I love each and every one of you guys for hanging out on a Monday night and breaking down this fight with me. As far as the odds go here, we've got Cutelaba sitting up about minus 210, Ryan Spann at plus 180. I don't want to pay up to minus 210, but Cutelaba inside the distance isn't much better at minus 150. So if I'm paying that much, I'd rather, I guess, just pay up to the minus 210 because at minus 150, that's like a 60% implied probability, but at minus 210, it's actually only about 67, 68. So we're only getting 6% in implied probability break just for him to have to finish inside the distance. And if you watch a couple of Spann's fights, he's been put in some bad spots and come out the other side. In particular, the Alex Nicholson fight on the regional scene. Nicholson was absolutely fucking this dude up. And he's lucky that the referee didn't step in and finish the fight because Nicholson put it on him for about 2 minutes straight, dropped him, and then with ground and pound just kicked the shit out of him for about 2 straight minutes. Spann winds up getting back up. Nicholson is completely gassed, completely punched out, and then Spann finishes him. So we have seen Spann survive through some bad spots before and then wind up putting his own hands on somebody. So he could potentially survive through some bad spots, and then we could see these guys lean on each other for the third round, and it could go to decision. You know, I mean, nothing is a lock in MMA, and that's why at minus 400, we have to be very careful about how we bet it. You know, that's when we have to start looking. Is there some value in the under 2.5? Is there some value in the under 1.5 here? And we just established that, you know, paying up to 60% implied probability for the under 1.5 isn't that crazy, as 12 of these guys' 20 fights have finished under 1.5. That's a 20-fight sample size in the UFC. So it could absolutely happen that we like that under 1.5 at minus 135. And if we can get it even better than that, then it's looking even better, because it's hard to be playing minus 400s consistently and having much of an ROI. We got to stay away from lines like that because they're already steamed. Spann inside the distance. That would be interesting. Right now we're looking at about plus 400 on Caesars, plus 300 on Bet Online. When FanDuel comes out with some props, you'll probably get a much better look, because FanDuel really does do it up when it comes to the props. They have some of the juiciest ones. You know, you can always wait on Bet Online's props for the most part. They usually have some of the leanest props out there in terms of value. So Cutelaba by submission 900, Spann by submission plus 1200. I don't hate that, man. That could be his path. Spann by KO plus 400, and I think Spann, you know, if he wins this fight, it's probably going to be inside the distance. So if you like Ryan Spann, instead of betting plus 180, maybe just bet the plus 300. You know, because at plus 180, you're looking at an implied probability of about 35, 36%. But at plus 300, you're looking at 25%. So it's a nice little, you know, 9% implied probability bump there. And if Spann's not finishing him, he's not much of a minute winner. he kind of relies on that big shot, and he does get knocked down a lot. So this is a very interesting fight, you guys. I think that this line might be just a little bit wide here at minus 225 for Cutelaba, minus 210 right now on Bet Online. There's some value in Spann, and if I was on that Spann side, I think that I would like to bet him inside the distance, because we have seen Cutelaba finish in 4 of his 5 UFC losses, and Spann has got the kind of power and has got the kind of submission game that he can finish fights. And all it takes is a little bit for him to get in the right spot in order to put that guillotine on you or get some kind of a front choke. And he can put your lights out real fast, especially with the size that you're underneath when you're wearing his weight. So the Spann by submission is something I'm probably going to be taking a poke at plus 1,200. You can put an eighth of a unit on it to win 1.5. It's not a bad way to go. And that could be a really nice hedge if you do bet that Cutelaba side. But yeah, I think I'm going to be picking Cutelaba to win this fight. I think he does have the better minute winning potential here. I think he's got the better conditioning, and I think he's the more well-rounded, well-schooled fighter here. But Spann is very dangerous and has the ability to win minutes, or I mean, not win minutes, but win moments and absolutely change a fight. And he is most dangerous early. I wonder what the line right now is just on Spann round 1. Because if we were to look at Ryan Spann, first round win, split decision win, round 2, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 3, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1. So of all of his finishes, only 2 of them have come out of round 1. So, and then let's look at Cutelaba when he's been finished. So Cutelaba has been finished round 1 by, but one of those Ankalaev stoppages was bullshit. Round 2 by Teixeira, decision. Round 3 by Serkinov. Round 1 by Michael Andrusak, but that was a illegal strikes loss, so I don't think that really matters. So, yeah, he's had a couple of finishes in round 1, one in round 3 and one in round 2. So maybe Spann round 1 could be an interesting little line here. Plus 550. I'll bet you FanDuel or DraftKings will do a lot better than that. Maybe plus 700, maybe plus 800. That could be an interesting way to play it as well. But yeah, you guys, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I'm going to say that Cutelaba is going to win this one, and then he's going to get it done in round number 2 via ground and pound. I think this fight definitely finishes inside the distance. I think you can use the fight doesn't go as a parlay piece, but at minus 400, you just need to be very careful. There's just not a lot of value in it at that price. I think that Cutelaba should win this fight, but I think the money line is a little bit wide. I think no matter who you're taking, you could take that inside the distance prop. There's just a little more value on it on the Spann side as compared to the Cutelaba side. But yeah, you guys, I'm going to go with Ian Cutelaba, second round ground and pound knockout. We got Mushroom saying, yeah, Uncle Weezy, Camacho Torres, pure violence, that's for sure. War Dog saying, personal take, Cutelaba by KO. Spann make the Albie fight look close, bad side of me. Yeah, I hear you. And then Local Man shakes fist saying, buying a combo of 400 Spann inside the distance, minus 139 Cutelaba inside the distance, combines for minus 359 inside the distance. That's an improvement. It is, man. Yeah, interesting, because there's a bunch of different ways to play these lines. If you have a little bit of a trader and you know how to do a little bit of arbitrage, how to spread markets, things like that. There are some good ways to get a little bit of extra value if you have access to a few different books. My guy Papa Chuck saying, nice pick, Weezy. Thank you, Papa Chuck. Thank all 24 of you guys who are hanging out in here for another episode of Balls Deep Breakdown on the MMA channel, on the MMA Engine channel with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless each and every one of you. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks, you guys, for UFC Vegas 54. The pick, Ion Cutelaba by second round ground and pound knockout. It's going to be a war. Can't wait for this fight. Check me out tomorrow night, Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time on the Uncle Weezy YouTube channel for just a tip. We're going to break down this whole card, all 11 fights, finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And on Thursday, right back here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, we're going to take a look at all the fights on this awesome prop template that I got. And we're going to look at over-unders and fight goes and fight doesn't go for all 11 fights on the UFC Vegas 54 card. Me and DFS by the numbers are going to be breaking it down for you guys. We got Daz Files saying thanks, Weezy, in chat. Mushroom saying thank you, Weezy. Great show as usual. Papa Chuck saying thanks, Unc. The greatest physicist in the world cashing checks here. And we got Jarno Portilla saying thanks, Weezy. I thank each and every one of you guys. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 54. You guys, time to eat. And I will see you tomorrow night. You guys take care and job bless.